19.
2017. I've never co-done that. Good job, Victoria. That's
You're
it?
welcome.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Today's show, we have Jacob Stitch Duran in studio. He will be co-hosting the show. Over the phone, we will have Michael Chandler and Justin Gaethje. Michael Chandler, of course, will be fighting at this weekend's big Bellator pay-per-view. And Justin Gaethje will be fighting the UFC. I know a lot of you are saying, but he's a World Series. Nope, not anymore. He will be fighting in the UFC. We finally get to see him test himself against some of these mighty fighters in the 155-pound division. What do you think of that, Victoria? I bet
I
you have.
love it.
That's a good opinion.
It's awesome.
See, you could have said, I don't know. That's something maybe.
Wow, that's cool.
But
What's
you
his name
chimed
again?
in. Justin Gaethje. Right now we have Jake Ellenberger FaceTiming us because we're putting him on blast. He went to Afghanistan
cool.
with us.
Oh, we got 20 seconds.
And then he went on a trip to Iraq. And we're trying to get him to say which trip is better, and he won't budge.
Did you grapple with elite Army Rangers?
George is putting him on
Fly the
blast
Black
right
Hawk
now.
helicopters?
20 seconds.
20 seconds.
One star. We met. I meet those all the time.
I wrapped a 2-star,
All right.
man.
20 seconds.
Hey, we gotta go. We gotta do the Junkie Radio Show, man. Good to talk to you, Jay. We're just messing. I'm glad you had a good time.
What's
And
up,
I'm glad
Danny?
You're home safe.
Here we go.
Okay, take care, buddy.
All right, see you later, boss.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
All right, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yes!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes. Ari's co-host, back east, handling all the producing duties today. It's going to be Danny. Sitting to my right is Stitch Duran, the preeminent comment in boxing and MMA.
Start over.
I want to start off with a
Wow.
George.
Victoria's there.
Victoria's
Yeah.
there.
Ooh.
The show apparently no longer matters. What's
Yeah.
going on today?
Well, you know, I wanted to start things off by offering condolences to the family of Tim Hague, family and friends of Tim Hague, a five-fight UFC veteran who passed away this past weekend following a boxing knockout loss in Canada. That on top of what we heard on Friday's show, where Matt Hughes, UFC Hall of Famer, former welterweight champion, had been involved in a train accident. Definitely made for a somber weekend, but Tim Hague has passed away. At first, it was one of those situations like Matt Hughes where he was fighting for his life, but he passed away this weekend, and Matt Hughes is continuing to fight for his life. So our thoughts and prayers are with the Hughes family and friends. I apologize. This is the show that matters, of course, and that's Victoria back east, not Danny. And this is the show where I was plenty on time, 45 minutes here, and I didn't even get that part right. So
You know what the best part of that was?
apologies, Victoria.
So Stitch came in, and when he came in, he saw your face. He looked at his watch because he thought he was late.
Right.
He
was
thought
sitting
we
here.
had to spring ahead or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
How
Well,
you doing, Victoria?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'll give you some proper props.
Ah, thank you.
All right.
Perfect.
They've kind of had beef the last couple weeks, right, George? You and Victoria.
A little
you went to
bit.
New York. You didn't.
I didn't
invite
holler at her, yeah. And then when I
You went to
did,
send her roses or
dude,
something.
so she goes, man, you didn't even tell me. You know, I like to go out and hang out or whatever. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's go hang out right now. You want a beer? No, I just drink water. Oh, okay.
It was a Monday. I'm not having a drink on a Monday.
Why not? She doesn't even drive. She just,
Can't start the week like that.
So she did have some pizza, so we did hang out for a while. It was cool. It was cool to be in New York with Danny and Victoria. Lots of there's no beef. We're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
This past weekend, a lot of things went down. Stitch for you, huge weekend with Andre Ward defeating Sergey Kovalev.
Yeah, what a weekend, to come back and, just have a month before you have a great fight with Vladimir Klitschko against Anthony Joshua. And, you come into this fight with the rematch of Kovalev and Andre Ward. There's a lot of tension during the fight with the camps and all that. But to go see and be involved in such another epic historical fight where Andre Ward stopped Kovalev in the 8th round with those body shots.
Yeah, the crowd went nuts too, and that straight right just
that
looked like it broke his jaw, man. It was
exactly.
right on the money.
That's because the fight, just like the Klitschko fight, it was anybody's fight till that moment. Anthony Joshua got that uppercut on Klitschko that changed the whole demographics of the game. Well, the same thing, that right hand to Kovalev is what really started the damage, and he just took it to the body.
Yeah. Now we were there live at the event, so we are. Obviously, being there in person is great experience. The fans just rose, man, when Andre Ward, injured his opponent, and you could tell there might be a finish. It was as loud as it gets. But the problem is, one thing that's nice about home is getting all the replays. So I get home, and a few people are saying that in the finish there may have been some borderline low blows. I did turn around and look, and the problem is Kovalev is so far crouched down that it was a tough angle to give referee Tony Weeks some credit. And it all happened so fast, who knows. Now the belt, the first one that started things, that was legal. The right cross was legal. So this guy was on his way out. Plus he was tiring.
Yeah, exactly.
He put a lot in the first 7 rounds. Some people had him ahead 4 rounds to 3. But either way, he was missing a lot. And I just don't know if he would have been able to keep up that pace. So we get to the part where there may have been some questionable low blows. By then, he was already pretty rocked. He was taking body shots, so he was losing his wind. He was rocked from the shot to the jaw. I don't know how much this would have affected. And your thoughts, do you agree with some of the naysayers out there saying that some of the shots came in a little low?
Yeah, I thought the shots were low. I thought he was on his way out anyway, but the shots that were what led to the fight being stopped I thought were low. Tony Weeks came out.
Oh, you thought the shots that led to it?
No, the ones that
led to the stoppage.
Yeah, led to the stoppage. Tony Weeks came out, put out a statement, which I thought was pretty noble of him. He just said, "Hey, man, I messed up. I didn't see it properly. I'm okay with it because that means maybe we could see a third one." But Stitch, I wanted to ask you, Andre Ward's demeanor going into the fight, did it seem any different to you? Because if you watch the first fight, to me it just seemed like it looked like Kovalev's best night, and Andre just being maybe a little rusty, and then towards the end of the fight really getting back to who he was. But did he have that mentality going into this fight, or did maybe Kovalev get into his head a little bit?
No, the thing about Andre's very strong-minded, and actually in the first fight when he got dropped in the second round, at the end of the fight, I'm taking the gloves off, and he says, the telling of a great champion is when you get dropped, you get up and you finish the fight and you win it. So that was, that really was the monkey that came off his back. I think that was everybody's concern is, can he take Kovalev's shots? On this one, he came in totally focused, and his body looked tremendous, and the strategy that they had, it worked out on him. But let me add on this body shots. That's one of the great things about Roy Jones is that he's in the game, he understands the game, and the referee goes into the dressing room, they'll tell him the belt line is really below is low, above is fine, and his cup was above the belt line, but as Andre's coming, he's coming up with his body shots, so they were fine, and I know Tony, will look at it and say, well, none of them were where he's going down and he's, going down towards the private. So to me, I thought the fights, the shots were well, but you said it well, is he was bent over. So it kind of changes that whole angle for everything. But, yeah, those body shots made a big difference.
And a couple of those, he's asking for that timeout that you sometimes see in MMA where he's looking at the ref like, if the ref didn't see it, you got to continue fighting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's
that belt is about 2 inches thick. If you hit the belt, you're in the clear. You have to be below it. And he never hit it below until he was crouched down and he went under. I mean, that's a difficult angle.
Sure.
And the body shots is what's taking his wind away. So I don't think it would have made a difference. I'd love to see him fight a third time, but I think Stevenson?
Adonis Stevenson, yes.
That would be my preferred route before we revisit Kovalev again, because
Right.
we've already done this 2 times, and once he decisioned them, once he finished them, and I'm okay with it. Yes, controversy, I get it, but come on, like there has to be new opponents out there, because I don't know that Andre Ward wants to box very much longer.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. He's accomplished everything. One of the guys from Sky TV is interviewing him in the dressing room. He says, you know what, you won the gold, you won the Super 6 tournament, which was outstanding, and then, you end up, becoming the light heavyweight champion of the world, but, let me add also, Andre Ward is a sportsman, because that time when Kovalev turned away from him, he could have attacked him, right? But he's kind of stayed back on him, So Andre is, he'll be as dirty as you, but that's not what he goes out and does, But he's definitely capable of doing that. Yeah. So I was real super.
Those rounds were close. Those rounds were tough.
No doubt about it.
A few of them were tough.
I'm watching it yesterday for the first time because, I'm staying focused. He had a little swelling on his eye right off from the first round, so I'm getting my stuff ready. I'm preparing for worst case scenarios. So I never really see the fight completely until I got home and I watched it. Because my whole focus is make sure that when the bell rings, that I have everything that I need to work on him.
Yeah, I had a feeling that the tide was turning, because when arguably Kovalev was up 3-1, I saw Duran in his corner, and then when Ward went up 4-3, then I saw Duran come back around to join the team that was ahead. Yeah.
Our mics were there live, so we were able to get a statement from Kovalev. Let me play that for you right now.
Nutsack.
That's pretty much all he had, but
that's it, huh?
Yeah.
Now listen. I go back and look at the Facebook comments. Right about now, you got some little twats going, how about MMA? Guess what? This is an MMA show. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, and we bring in the best. We got Stitch Duran here in studio with us. We had Evan Dunham, Kevin Lee the last few weeks. So, we bring guests after guests in studio to hang out with us for a couple hours, and then we talk to a bunch on the phone. We got world champion Michael Chandler joining us today, as well as Justin Gaethje, former World Series of Fighting champion, now debuting as the UFC. But we have to gauge the temperature of the sport and combat sports as well. Boxing is part of mixed martial arts. At this point in time, I'm super happy talking about Ward and Kovalev, because I thought it was bigger than what I saw in Singapore. I woke up early to watch the fights in Singapore, and we're going to talk about a great KO by Holly Holm over Betch Correa and a couple other nice performances. But, I think you all need better feedback from us than the couple comments I make, but that's just how I feel about it. I still like talking about the boxing, don't you? I thought it was the bigger event.
And I think it's important because you never know. Maybe one day, an MMA guy will go box or a boxing guy will go to MMA. I'm talking crazy here, George, but you never know when that could happen.
Right. And later this week, we have 2 great events. We have the event in Oklahoma City with Kevin Lee and Michael Chiesa, and we also have Bellator's pay-per-view. We will cover all that. But coming off the weekend, Saturday was a blast here at Mandalay Bay, watching high-level boxing. As I'm watching Stitch, we had Brett Okamoto from ESPN with us. Goes was there. Ford, one of our listener friends, he was with us. And I'm turning to these guys saying, now you see that? And they know, because they know boxing as well. Those are just movements that Conor McGregor cannot close the gap in these last 2 years that he's been training boxing on a guy like Floyd Mayweather. The reaction time, and not only just a straight 1-2 or countering. Sequences of footwork and bobbing and weaving, coming off the ropes, using that as an ally, also as your defense. There's just so much going on, and these guys are turning their punches, and they're crisp. It's amazing stuff to watch. That's why they call it the sweet science. I know this fight's going down. They signed, sealed, and delivered it, but I think you're going to watch a clinic in August.
Yeah, and, people are always asking me, well, what do you think? Obviously everybody is going on Floyd Mayweather, but I personally think is the first 2 rounds are extremely important and probably the best advantage that McGregor has if he goes out there and does dirty boxing. In other words, and I'm not saying dirty boxing like you're holding his head and punching, more of closing the gap and being on his chest. And if I was training McGregor, I'd go from the body up to the top of the head, because if you're going to try to hit Floyd on top of his head, you're going to miss. So at least that's his only chance, because he does have the power to knock out anybody. After that, you're right, man. When it comes to the distance fights and all that, once Floyd programs himself on what is going on, then it's going to be a long night.
Yeah. Masterful performance by Andre Ward, who stays undefeated, arguably the pound-for-pound #1 guy right now in the world. With Chocolatito losing about 3-6 months ago, he was the other guys whose name gets thrown in the hat. It just so happens that when somebody wins, they're it. Like Canelo, we got a little bit of that love. When he beat Chavez Jr., and now he'll do it again with Triple G. So it's just one of those fictitious belts that gets passed around. But as of right now, I think it'd be hard to argue against Andre Ward.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, the thing about it, let me add behind the scenes. That's what makes, when I come in, I give you guys a little bit of the scoop of what goes on behind the scenes. So
okay. Pre-fight?
Yeah, pre-fight.
Okay.
So when it's time to wrap a fighter's hands, one guy from the other corner always comes into the dressing room, and, the commission's there, but make sure that everything is up to par. I wrapped Andre Ward's hands. The guy was there, and Andre asked me to go to Kovalov's corner, which was the first time I've done that. Normally they've sent somebody else and take a look. But as I walk in, one of the things I always look at are the kinks in the armor. So they're having a hard time putting the wraps on. He's adjusting it. He's taking the gauze off. He's redoing it. And, it's time to put the gloves on. He's having a tough time putting one of the hands in the glove. So they have to get the second pair, because there's always 2 pairs of gloves in case something happens. But the gloves are at ringside. So by the time they get to them, they put the gloves on. Tammy, which is the director for the HBO, tells Kovalov, you have 5 minutes. All right. So knowing that, I went over there. But before that, Tony Weeks comes in and he starts giving the instructions. And Kovalov tells him, he says, do you have any questions? Yeah, well, Andre comes in with his shoulder, and, he kind of hit me here, and it hurt. So 5 minutes.
Pointing to the ribcage.
Yeah, going to the ribcage, yeah. So I get back into the dressing room, and it's just Andre and myself and Virgil, and I said, look, man, he just finished putting his gloves on. He has 5 minutes to walk. He's going to go in cold. And then also he mentioned this to Tony Weeks, that, you come in with your shoulder, and it bothered him. And so, I'm sure that Andre and Virgil had their game plan, but that just kind of reinforces what they're going to be working on, and you see how aggressive Andre Ward went in on the first round.
Yeah, and Andre will say it too. I've heard him do interviews with the guys at the fights. He realizes that he's a little bit of a slow starter, but I thought he was coming out and with a lot more offense than I usually see.
Right.
Also, so 2 things here. Physically, he wasn't able to warm up, but think of how much that fucks with you.
Well,
like if you're told 5 minutes and you haven't been able to get your glove in and secure it and to feel comfortable, and you're going against a guy who's never lost.
Right.
A world champion, multiple belts, gold medalist. I mean, your state of mind.
Sure. Yeah, and then, at the press conference, I guess they were bringing up the point that, and I don't know how true it is or what happened. I don't get involved, but the comments were that John David Jackson, Kovalov's trainer, had called the Ward camp and asked, to be participating in that. Well, they're saying, the Kovalov team is saying no, that Andre Ward's team called John David Jackson to come on board. Whatever the case was, it bothered Kovalov enough to, at the press conference when he made his statements, and before Andre Ward got on the mic, the whole team took off from the press conference. So that's a mental game, and that's why it's important to have a good team with you that keeps you focused and keeps you right on line.
Goes mentioned that other fight. Who was it again? Mayweather?
Well, if I had to guess, maybe take like a guy like Conor or something.
I think it's Mayweather McGregor. No one's really been talking about it, but just kidding, obviously. On August 26th, there's going to be a fight between our MMA representative, Conor McGregor, multiple weight class champion outside the UFC, in the UFC, now currently the UFC lightweight champion, taking on Floyd Mayweather, arguably one of the best of all time. Undefeated, going for his 50th win. How'd you like to be in that corner of Conor McGregor? I don't think he's got a boxing guy. I think Kavanaugh wraps his hands, and he's obviously his lead cornerman, but I think in this environment, I mean, we're going to have possibly more breaks.
Sure.
It's not just – I mean, Conor, I guess, has been fighting for titles lately, but they don't go very long other than the Diaz fights. But he could potentially see, 11 breaks.
Yeah, no, that's it's entirely different, and that's what I've been telling people, because people have been asking, hey, man, should Conor McGregor bring you into the corner? Well, if he was smart, he would, because the UFC brings in the cut men to work with the fighters, and basically you don't have a choice of who you have, whoever they appoint. But this boxing is entirely different, because the fighters bring in the cut man, and then you're going 12 rounds instead of 5, and then you're boxing a guy that will punch you out from the outside. So are you going to create some kind of damage through just the rounds going on? I think so. And so he's going to need a good cut man.
Well, not to mention, if he's smart, like he has been in the past, he may even fly out for a month beforehand. And this is something where the cut man has a presence every day in sparring as you lead into the event.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just night of.
Right. No, exactly. And that's, a lot of
And
times.
you're here in Vegas, is my point.
Yeah, well, yeah, I am in Vegas, and I've worked with Conor, in his corner many times. And so, that's a thing where, yeah, if he needs a cut man, I'm available, so.
I think
I love it.
Fighters are all about routines, right? And so what Stitch can bring to that camp is all the tricks of the trade, and just getting the guy comfortable, knowing that you have a guy in your corner that's been through these type of environments before, that could settle you down and go, look, this is what's coming up next. This is how we handle this situation. This is what I heard. This is what I see. I think that's a valuable thing to have a guy like Stitch in your corner for something like that.
Well, and then, not only that, but I'm watching the replay yesterday on the fight, and, I normally don't like to bash other guys, but if you notice the corner work in Andre's corner, we all have an assignment. But every round I'm working on his face, all right? On the other side with Kovalov, even though he's swallowing on the right side, the cut man, the only thing he's doing is putting Vaseline on the cheeks and on the eyebrow, and no ice pack or no end swell and all that. So, when you're in this type of battle, you have to, if anything, preventive maintenance. And that's what I did with Andre Ward, and we came out victorious.
Plus, there's got to be some. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you take away any disadvantage. That's my job, is to give him every opportunity to win a fight.
Plus, at some point, I think, isn't there a little prestige walking in with Stitch Duran too? That's how I would take it. Even if I was 50-0 and none of my fights have ever gotten out of the first round, I'd still want to walk in with the best. If I'm the best, I want to walk in with the best. This is his first time in boxing. He needs a legitimate cut man, and you're available. You're saying,
well, thank you, man.
Fucking doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And just an example to that is, I worked one of the earlier fights. This young kid, Junior Yeoman from Brooklyn, and he was doing a 6-rounder. So they asked me to work his corner, and how much do you charge? And I said, well, God, I haven't done a 4 or 6-rounder in years, but normally when I do, if I'm in Vegas, I don't even charge these guys. So the kid's, well, he's 12-0 now, and a good prospect. But him and his father, just like you mentioned, they said, damn, we have Stitch Duran with us. So that does make a difference.
Why do you think Sylvester Stallone casts these movies when he's doing it and he's trying to sell the movie and make it as realistic as possible? Why do you think he calls him?
Yeah.
That's the preeminent boxing guy. I mean, he was at Wembley Stadium in front of 90,000 people. He was just here at the Mandalay Bay with arguably the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. And then think about all the times you've seen him in MMA, in Pride. Not only are you the best, I think you just have that presence, that big game presence.
Yeah, well, like Vitor Belfort says, when Stitch walks into the dressing room, whether he's working in my corner or not, he brings that calming effect, and I think that's extremely important. And this video, I gotta throw out a quick shout out to my daughter Carla for Father's Day. She made a nice video. You brought me to tears almost, but you had Frank Trigg, Jay Haran, Vladimir Klitschko, Joel Casamayor, Beirut Shumanov, obviously goes. Punk ass, was in the video, and
you were in it, George?
And my grandson and my son, and they're all wishing me a happy birthday, and it just kind of brought tears. But that's those are special moments. I got Lyoto Machida. Got to give John Rico props because he brought it in. But you said it, Lyoto said it, Vladimir Klitschko brought up the point, Beirut Shumanov, that I'm like the father figure for you guys. Yeah. And I think, that's extremely important in any type of fight, especially when you're in this type of level. But, talking about the McGregor thing, for some reason today, all the tweets are starting to come out that Notorious ought to bring in Stitch Duran. So, and then one guy says, well, you know what, Dana's still involved, and I don't know if Dana, is going to be a thing, but that's not his decision. It's Conor McGregor's decision.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Plus, you have a calming effect, Stitch. When we went to Afghanistan, you assured our mom that we would be all right with you, and that actually brought a level of calm to her. You know, everything we did, you usually did first.
Yeah.
So I think it's just your presence of things are going to be all right. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
sure.
So if everybody's like blood pressure, you know, and their heart rate can go down just for that one moment, it's because they know they're in good hands.
Yeah.
Should there be a cut, you know what I mean?
Right.
They know that the glove is going to fit. They know that obviously you're not going to be not knowing to put the end swell or to dab the cut or to use the adrenaline or to maybe throw that shoulder when that sometimes there's that the doctor that's trying to meddle a little bit too much, and sometimes an experienced cutman can run a little bit of interference so you can get them out there for that one more round.
Yeah.
I've seen the doctors ask him for his
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, that's happened before, and that's a good point, and because in Las Vegas, well, a lot of places, but definitely in Las Vegas, the doctors know me and they give me every opportunity to give that fighter that one more round, and that's just because they know what I do. Even the referees understand what I do, so all those elements make a big difference. It made a difference with Andre Ward.
Yeah. All right, folks, we're going to take this break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Michael Chandler, Bellator lightweight champ, who's defending his belt against Brett Primus at Bellator NYC, which is the same thing as Bellator 180. It's the same card. It's just that Bellator 180 is everything but the main card. The main card's Bellator NYC. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. We got Stitch Duran in the house, and we'll be right back.
You know that scene in Star Wars where Darth Vader tells Luke he's his father? What if I walked in right after with my voice and was like, I'm your Uncle Walter. Can I get a lift home? That'd be crazy, right? Anyway, here George and goes.
All right. We got our first guest ready to go. And let me tell you something. I had to scold Chandler a little bit, Goes, earlier this morning.
What?
Did you know that he's got this Train, Fight, Win series on his YouTube channel? Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to find. Just write YouTube Michael Chandler for one. It'll take you straight to it. Subscribe. And he puts out these episodes of his training camps, like a lot of fighters do.
Yeah.
It's just, how has he not promoted this or told us, like a little nudge? So I told him, do this, man. Make this thing pop. You know, every time one drops, get out there and do it, because it's very well done. And it just breaks down, you know, it opens up his life as far as, you know, home life, training, talking to the coaches, talking to him, his state of mind. You really learn a little bit more about him. And, of course, I already know a lot about him, but I learned a lot. So I thought, oh, well, it must have just debuted here for New York. Now I go back. He had one last June, too, for the fight before Pitbull. Remember the KO in St. Louis?
Yeah, sure.
He had one there, and I'm looking, and it's episode 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like they may have done 5 of those.
How did he take getting scolded by you?
Like a champ.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like a champ.
Like a champ. Like, I thought he was going to say, shut up, fat boy. You know, I know what I'm doing. But no, I think we were cool. We'll find out in a second here when we bring him on. What's up, Michael Chandler? How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Dude, this is great stuff
Yeah,
here,
well-
man. Train, Fight, Win.
Well, let me go ahead and just scold you real quick.
Uh-oh.
Damn. I walked into that one.
Nut shot, brother.
No, man, you know me, man. You know me personally. I mean, it's hard for me to, you know, I'm not going to reach out to all my, you know, media outlets and friends and be like, hey, man, can you shamelessly promote my stuff? You know, so I use my social media platforms, and I use my Facebook, and I have certain people posted out, coaches and that kind of stuff. But, yeah, man, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where there's a fine line between, you know, shamelessly promoting yourself and then asking for too many favors. So if anybody does want to go back and watch them, I mean, the goal, I'll probably end up putting them all, you know, kind of together. The fight for the pit bull, there was 5 or 6 episodes. Fight for the last one with Ben Henderson, I think there was 7.5 episodes, or 6 or 7 episodes. We even released one the day of the fight and then one after the fight. And then, yeah, this time we got 7 episodes coming, and it's definitely high end production. It's very similar to what the UFC embeddeds are, except better, in my opinion, because we get a little deeper. You get some fun. You get a little bit of funny stuff with it. You get that actual, like, that fight week, part of the weight cut, the grocery store, the who is your team, what's your mindset, all that kind of stuff. And that's really just a way to, you know, I built an amazing team of best friends around me, and we put out some cool content. So check them out.
It's awesome. You know, Tyron Woodley does a series as well. Joe Lazon's done them in the past. We got Stitch Duran here in studio with us. And Stitch, if you ever do one of these, man, I'll do whatever it takes to learn how to be a cameraman. I'd love to follow you around.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking Wembley Stadium would have been amazing, and last weekend would have been amazing. And
Well, just wrapping Michael Chandler's hands for the first time was amazing. How you doing, champ?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. I look forward to that again this weekend.
Oh, book it.
Hopefully.
Let's do it, man.
yeah,
You know,
that
so
was the
we
big
gotta-
KO over Pitbull, right,
Yeah.
in St. Louis?
Yeah, that was nice. And, you know, it was good because I had just met Michael Chandler. Show you the kind of person he is. He goes and gives me a hug and a kiss right in the ring, you know, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, what I get to deserve this, man, but I appreciated it.
Yeah. No, this is great stuff.
That's how. I mean, you don't get your hand wraps. If you don't get your hands wrapped, you don't fight, man. And to get it done by the best in the business is a dream come true. So it's a good stuff, and my hands felt fast. So let's do it again.
How many of these wraps do you got, by the way? Because it looks like you keep using the same over and over. I mean, those things must be funky by the end of the week, right? He was hanging them out of the window of the car, trying to dry them out.
Oh, those. Yeah, I mean, you know, I get a couple workouts in them, and then, you know, I spray them with disinfectant, and you got a problem with hand wraps is you can't just wash them, because you throw them in the washer, they get all spun up and all crazy. So you gotta be strategic with them. You got to throw them in a little bag, you know, a wash bag, and then throw the bag inside the washer, and then they still get all jacked up. And then, so yeah, in that specific episode, I had just got done telling the camera that I was going to be a disciplined human being, hang my wraps up, make sure they dry for the next day sparring, and then turns out I forgot, so I hung them out the window to dry.
Well, someone's got to come up with an idea, right, where they make these hand wraps that can be washed, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or,
It's- Make
Been
some
going on
money.
for so long, though. You'd think somebody would have tried.
Yeah, I suppose. Michael Chandler joining us here on MMA Junkie Radio. He defends his belt at Bellator NYC on Saturday. Spike TV. Oh, excuse me. That's a pay-per-view effort. I forgot. Pay-per-view. Spike for the prelims. Pay-per-view afterwards. Primus is coming after your belt. He's got 5 wins there for Bellator, so definitely a worthy candidate. Tell us about fighting in Madison Square Garden. You said many times in this video you feel like you were put on this earth to go out there and compete. The good Lord gave you these skills, and of course you're doing it in one of the most iconic arenas of all time. What's that got to feel like?
Yeah, it's been great, man. I've been extremely fortunate to be blessed with these skills, and to give anything less than my best really is to sacrifice those gifts that I've been given, And I realize the position I'm in, and I realize I'm in this position not just because of hard work, but because of all the people that have spent their blood, sweat, and tears helping me, and to be able to, come into the sport, win world titles, and now get the opportunity to fight on literally the biggest stage in combat sports at Madison Square Garden is nothing short of amazing, man. And I was there promoting the fight a couple months ago, and you walk into that place, the air is different, the lights are different, the scenery is different, the energy is just different, So it's crazy to sit here and think that just 6 days from now we'll be fighting in that arena. You try not to think about it too much because you got you got a big test ahead of you, and you don't want to focus on the arena. You don't want to focus on the pressure of the situation. You just want to focus on the task at hand. But as soon as I get my hand raised and knock Brent Primus out, that weight will be lifted, and I'll finally be able to take a deep breath, look back, and someday I'll be able to tell my kids that Dad fought at Madison Square Garden, and it'll be a good feather in my cap.
Very cool. What do you have for Michael Chandler?
Michael, this far along in your career, are you still making major changes when it comes to each training camp, or are they just kind of tweaks here and there to freshen things up?
Yeah, I mean, there's really not a ton of major changes. I think it's just it doesn't matter what. I mean, a lot of people talk about reinventing themselves, and some people, everybody starts from a different place, and everybody gets to different levels, and certain big tweaks need to be made. But for me, I've been at a point where I've always fought hard, and I've always worked extremely hard, and I've always focused on myself 90% pretty much, and then focused on my opponent that last 10% to focus on where I can exploit him and where I can really get a leg up. So this training camp's no different. It's just that constant and never-ending improvement. Just trying to get a little bit better every single day, trying to get a little bit more confident every single day, focusing more and more on my nutrition and my sleep and my rehab and my prehab, and actually getting to the cage with no bumps and no bruises and no injuries, and just any time you can step into the cage 100% healthy, it's a huge blessing, and I'm literally, it gives me chills thinking about where I am now and how confident I am in my abilities. And when I look in the mirror, I truly see the best fighter that I've ever been. So I'm excited to go out there and be able to perform, and I'm excited to go out there and show how hard I've been working and how much of a calling and how big of a calling I truly do have in my life. And it's good, man. I'm going to go out there and dominate, and I'm going to put on a great performance. I will steal the show, as I always do, every single time I step into that Bellator cage. And here we go. Here goes nothing.
And Michael, I was going to bring up the point because as I was wrapping your hands, you're so cool, calm, and collected, right? But once they kind of close that gate, there's a different Michael Chandler. At what point do you actually change from being Michael Chandler to being the gladiator?
Yeah, I think it's as you're getting announced. Even when you're making the walk, and even when you're getting you're getting greased up, and then you walk into the cage. Then it's like you step in there, and really over these last couple fights, I just keep telling myself this is your home, and that cage is my home. That's where I have prepared myself and spent hours and hours and hours training and striving and failing, and then triumphing, and then failing again, and just tweaking and experimenting to be able to turn myself into the dominant fighter that I am. So that cage is my home, and as soon as that cage door closes and those announcers start announcing you, man, it's such a great feeling, because it used to, when you first start the sport, when you first get into that sport, you don't really know what you're doing. You can act like you're experienced, and you can act like the pressure doesn't get you. You can act like you're a seasoned veteran and a calm, cool, collected fighter, but really you're just going out there and you're brawling and you're, or a lot of guys are. Some guys are very timid when they start out. But, man, all I did was I used to just brawl. I used to go out there and, like, okay, let's go 1,000 miles an hour. He'll break eventually and I'll win. Now you see a much more refined person, a much more confident in the situation. Something that I actually got tattooed on me about a year and a half ago was be at peace in the midst. And as fighters, we're literally in there for however long you're in there. It's literally like you're tied onto a tornado. It's the most volatile situation that you're ever going to be in your entire life. Anything can happen at any time, and you're daring the embarrassment in front of millions and millions of eyeballs. So you're just being at peace in the midst of these trials and being at peace in the midst of the turbulence and down in the valleys and in the suck and in the crazy situations, man. It's something that I've embraced, and it's something that I've grown to love. And inside those turmoil situations and the crazy pressure situations, I'm at home and I'm at peace in the midst, and I'm excited to go out there and prove it again on my 20th anniversary, my 20th fight, Madison Square Garden, the biggest stage I've ever had and maybe ever will have, unless we go back there again. So we'll see.
Here's something I picked up from Train, Fight, Win. Henry Hooft, his coach, his striking coach, said, the reason we can get a lot done is because he's always in shape. And you know how there's a lot of fighters that come in out of shape, and part of the work is getting them into shape, and so it's wasted sessions.
The piece of the camp goes away there.
Right, and so he says Michael's always in a great state of mind. He shows up on time. He's already stretched out. He's got the hand wraps going, and he's there to work, and they maximize as much technique, all the different combos that are out there. So anybody that's listening, young fighters, watch, fight, train. Excuse me, it went away there for a second. But watch the series here, Train, Fight, Win, and watch how a world champion prepares even for just a training session. It's really, really important.
Yeah. And let me ask another question, Michael, because, I used to work with a body snatcher, Mike McCallum, which was a tremendous, super middleweight fighter. And he would literally set up techniques, 2 or 3 techniques in advance. Do you actually set up techniques, or you just go, like, say, it's volatile, you go in there, you just throw blows, or do you actually set things up 2 or 3 steps in advance?
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. It's cool to see. It's hard to talk about yourself or whatever. Like when I kind of analyze my fight style, but it is really cool to see that maturation process. That I don't have to force things anymore. I think. We go back to that Patricky Pitbull fight. I mean, that knockout was awesome, and you can sit there and talk about how fast that punch was and how on the money it was and how quick he went out and the fight was over. But that punch was a calculated strike based upon his reaction to the jabs I was throwing before, the feints I was throwing before, grabbing the leg, trying to take him down with the single leg. He pulls the leg back. Now he's worried about the takedown. And I saw the fight materialize. It's almost like you're watching. It's like you're playing a video game, and you're understanding what's about to happen next. And when I first got into the sport, it was throw as many punches as you can, wing haymakers, and go for the knockout, and hope you survive. And now it's just cool to be able to pump the brakes a little bit. I think all 3 of you guys have watched pretty much every single one of my fights, and I never, ever, ever took my foot off the gas pedal. Just in these last couple fights, being able to be a veteran enough to not rush in and not go 1,000 miles an hour. I still might be going 990 miles an hour and faster than a lot of people, but I'm not going at that pace. I still keep that high pace, but it's more of a calculated pace. It's more of a veteran. There's more of a veteran riding the ship, the whole fight. And, throwing almost little traps out there, throwing almost experimental punches, if you will. You want him to be fast, and you want him to be accurate, and you want to have your defense solid, but you want to see how he reacts to the jab. You want to see how he reacts to the feint. You want to see how he reacts to the takedown. You want to see how he reacts to, throwing a leg out there, faking a leg kick, faking a knee, something like that. And that was stuff that I never used to do. I used to just be like, well, here goes nothing. Let's go hard and let's put on a show. And now it's just cool to see myself kind of, finally, and after it only took me about 16, 17, 18 fights in this sport and a couple dozen sets of stitches to realize that you can still be exciting and still be dominant, but still let the fight materialize. So I definitely am starting to set things up more now, and knowing that little pot shots here and there are going to pay dividends later on in the fight.
Dude, Here Goes Nothing sounds like some warehouse where this guy just beats everyone for $1,000, like a Tank or a Kimbo, and they go, anybody in the audience want to do this? And then you raise your hand and go, well, I'll do it. Here goes nothing.
You hand somebody like popcorn and hot dog. Hold on, I'll be right back.
That was me.
Here goes
that
nothing.
was me, though, man. It's crazy. It's crazy, and it's, and the crazy thing was I had success with it. I mean, when I burst onto the scene and I won the Bellator tournament, and in my mind I knew I was going to beat Eddie Alvarez. There was about 7 people in the entire world.
Did you beat Eddie with Here Goes Nothing as well?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Lots of Here Goes Nothing with a little extra special sauce on it. But it was pretty that was pretty much what it was, And Eddie's a heck of a competitor, man, and it just things happen and they work out well for you sometimes, but I think seeing that not always work out well for you makes you take an outsider's perspective, looking through the glass of your own career and your own fight style and realizing you got to mature and you got to be a little bit more cognizant of the best way to win fights, and that's where I'm at now.
I'm going to send it over to Goes here. He's chomping at the bit. He's got another question. But if you think about it, our first 100 shows were probably Here Goes Nothing and us just talking.
Try first 1,000.
Maybe, huh? Stitch, how about your first couple times tending to someone's face to the skills you have now? Does it have that same feel like Here Goes Nothing?
Yeah, I remember when I did my first amateur boxing show, working the corner. We have a minute, and I'm in there, and my hands are rushing quick, and one of these veteran coaches comes up to me during the fight, and he's laughing at me. He said, hey, man, take your time. 1 minute is a long time. So I've always kept that in the back of my mind, and now, I stay cool, calm, and collected.
Was that back in the day when your end swell was an ice cube?
Pretty much. Yeah.
All right, Goes, what do you have?
Hey, Michael, so we heard you talk about what it means to fight at Madison Square Garden, and you said that's probably as big as it can get, but I can put one scenario out there, and I want to hear your thought on it. What about fighting on your campus, the University of Missouri? Have you ever planted that seed in Bellator's ears, how cool it would be to go back to your school and fight there?
That would actually be awesome. I think the bigger stage is obviously Madison Square Garden, but there is no more nostalgic stage than the Hearn Center for me. I mean, I wrestled there in high school. I wrestled there in college. So yeah, to be able to go back there would be absolutely amazing, man. And I think, back in the day, back in the Bjorn Rebney days, I know Bjorn had talked to our athletic director and that kind of stuff, and I know they were talking about trying to get something done, and it never materialized. But I know Bellator is looking at college campuses now, and they have a big wrestling base of guys, a big stable of wrestlers on the roster. So I know they're looking at schools that might have that have good wrestling programs. So I think that's definitely something that needs to happen. Obviously, I love that St. Louis venue at the Scott Trade Center, but the Hearn Center in Columbia, Missouri, which is actually where my wife is from. My wife was born and raised in Columbia, Missouri, so that would be great as well. And man, I spent years and years and years there, and I still go back there a ton to kind of reset myself. Go back there, back to the Mizzou wrestling room, work out with those guys, and kind of remember where I came from and remember how tough I am. I'm not this tough because of fighting. I'm this tough because of wrestling. And to be able to go out there and defend my title at the Hearn Center would be probably the highlight of my career for sure.
And just so everybody knows, this wouldn't be the first time fighting on campus. Him and his wrestling buddies once took on some frat boys after a football game at some party. So this probably be the second or third fight on the campus. But anyway, we know what you mean.
There's always time for a first, though. You can take them to the library, right?
Yeah.
They're lucky. Yeah. They're lucky.
Oh, it's so good that he's on the East Coast. He's not like an hour away where he can just come over here and settle things. Listen, buddy, thanks for the interview. And I'm going to encourage people to go check out Train Fight Win. It's a job well done by you and your team around you. Congratulations on being able to fight in a venue like Madison Square Garden, defend your belt. An awesome turnaround after that little spell of 688 days I think you said you had that was just miserable.
Yes,
and now things are just looking great. So congratulations on that. And, we love you, man. Go out there and do your thing, and we'll definitely be tuning in to Bellator NYC, the pay-per-view on Saturday. And Stitch will see you in a couple days.
You guys.
Yeah, I'll see him Friday
I'm
for sure.
excited about that.
All right,
yes,
Michael.
and thank you guys so much for having me on. And everybody, follow me on my social media at Mike Chandler MMA. That's how I'm pumping out all the Train Fight Wins. So check them out on Instagram, Twitter, and all that kind of stuff. So thank you guys.
All right,
Believe
see
this
you.
guy using his friends to promote himself? Jeez.
See, now you short scolded me, so I got to shamelessly promote myself now.
Good job, man.
Hey,
All right.
buy my book.
Buy my book. All right, we'll see, bud. All right, that's Michael Chandler. Again, at Mike Chandler MMA across all social media platforms. Awesome dude and a great champion. We wish him the best against Brett Primus. It's going to be a great card. Fedor Emelianenko, Matt Mitrione, Vanderlei Silva, Chael Sonnen. A lot of legends there on Saturday.
It's going to be fun.
We'll tell you more about the Bellator Fan Fest that they have when we come back from this last break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. We got boxing and MMA Cutman, Stitch Duran in the house.
Flow rider and lunch money. 3 Miami boys, you know what time it is.
By the time I clicked it, it was like 95 degrees.
They can drink Mentos-flavored Diet Coke without their stomachs giving a single fuck. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
If you're in New York City this weekend, Bellator has their pay-per-view card, Bellator NYC, along with Bellator 180, which is the prelims. Those prelims are headlined by Phil Davis versus Ryan Bader. Davis defends his light heavyweight belt against Ryan Bader. Michael Chandler on the pay-per-view on the main card defends against Brett Primus, his lightweight title. And Douglas Lima will defend against brother of Diego Lima from this season's Tough 25 series. He'll defend against Lorenz Larkin, former UFC veteran. So 3 title fights along with those epic fights between Chael Sonnen and Vanderlei Silva. Fedor Emelianenko. Who's that, me?
Yeah.
Oh, this video was running. Okay.
Who are you, Victoria?
No, I thought it was Stitch. He was looking at his phone.
Those beers.
Yeah. So here's what's happening. The fans are invited to the weigh-ins for Bellator NYC, as well as a Q&A session with 4 MMA legends. This is on Friday. It takes place at Madison Square Garden, and it starts at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That's what time the doors open. At 4:30, you can meet the Bellator Ring Card Girls. At 5, the Q&A with Tito Ortiz, Randy Couture, Royce Gracie, and Dan Henderson. The weigh-ins kick off at 6 p.m. After that, members of Bellator Nation Fan Club can head over to Dave & Buster's in Times Square for a chance to meet Ortiz and Gracie, who will be on hand from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. The event is free with an RSVP by Bellator Nation members who can sign up at bellator.com/fanfest. All right, folks, when we come back, we'll take your calls at 866-522-2846. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93. Stitch Duran in the house.
It's crashing, almost holds down the drain. Fever, Las Vegas turning day into night, time turning night.
believe that the brand of vodka would.
With who? Kettle One?
Kettle One, I didn't have a hangover. All right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. You like that, Stitch?
I love that, man. Was that a tribute
to you?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Hey,
I like that.
I want to ask you something, though.
Let me ask you for some. The battery.
The battery?
Yeah.
If this were the Stitch Duran movie, what would we be watching it right now as this music's playing? I'm picturing him playing with his buddies in the ditch, like swimming.
Like the movie's just starting?
In the canals.
No, the movie's wherever you place it. When this song is playing, what are you watching?
He's
in the canals right now for me with his buddies swimming.
I would say. No, I know when. I got it. That was a good one. But believe it, I got it. And I'm the least creative guy on earth. But I think I fucking finally nailed it. You know when Stitch goes off to do his military service?
Okay.
And at that time, I apologize, your other buddy's name, who
Marshall.
He decided not to go.
Right.
And so that's when lives changed, right? So Stitch goes, and obviously in the movie they would cover Thailand. Hopefully when they're trying to kill you, you know, that little scene or whatever. He comes back and he's working for the cigarette company, Marlboro?
R.J. Reynolds.
R.J. Reynolds. And as they're doing all that, you know, he's building his gym. And anyway, let me just jump to the answer to the question. When he finally says, let's go to Vegas, I would put him in like a Chevy convertible.
Oh, that's cool.
And they're just trucking in like, hey, you know, you make the decision. What should we do? And all of a sudden this song hits, and you just see Stitch heading to Vegas with his family with a little U-Haul in the back. That's it right there.
No, that's a take, man. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You concede, guys?
I concede.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you got to invent something, though, because mine just happened. You got to invent the Chevy Camaro. That's very important.
Yeah.
If he's like in a Datsun, it's not as cool.
Well, you're a Chevy guy, it looks like to me. Back in the day.
But I would have liked to do the original drive, which would have been a U-Haul.
That's when your life changed when you came to Vegas, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you were already in combat sports. You had the gym and everything over there, but I feel like your life changed as you came to Vegas.
It changed. Yeah, it did, no doubt.
All right. 866-522-2846. If you want to throw in a few more bits on the movie, who would play Stitch Duran is the question.
Well, you'd have to have different versions of him, right?
Yeah. So Stitch maybe 20 years ago. Can anybody think of one? Call in 866-522-2846. We're going to get to Orlando from Connecticut, Ryan from Sacramento, and Phoenix from New York in about 60 seconds.
Phoenix from New York.
That's what it says. Holly Holm defeated Betch Correia via knockout, head kick, punch. It was, look, the first 10 minutes were atrocious. And the fans were booing. Mark Goddard even chastised the ladies. I appreciate and respect your game plans, but you got to turn it up. He actually warned them both for timidity.
Oh, they weren't fighting. Yeah,
they weren't fighting. And the girls finally started engaging. And just when Betch did the old, come on, let's go, let's do this. She did it a few times. Boom, she got hit with a head kick, and it almost looked like the question mark.
Different, right?
When it goes up, and then she hooked it around.
Yeah.
And so she caught her shin to head. Betch goes down, and then she followed up with a solid punch. So if you just watch the highlight, you'd go, God damn, I missed it. But if you watch the fight, you'd be like, you may have missed it from falling asleep the first 10 minutes.
Is that bad?
But they did come through. And that's the way you want a main event to end. So props to Holly Holm. Back in the win column after 3 losses. Marcin Tybura defeated Andrei Arlovski. Colby Covington defeated Dong Hyun Kim. Rafael Dos Anjos defeated Tarek Safadine. And that's what happened is these decisions leading into the main event and then the slow main event, it just made for when you get up at 5 a.m. Pacific time to watch these fights for the main card, the prelims start at 1:15 a.m. You need something to keep you up too. And for a while there, man, it was really, really tough. John Tuck defeated Takanori Gomi. Walt Harris back in the win column, as is Bruce Leroy, a.k.a. Alex Caceres. Probably should have said it the other way. Russell Doan, shout out to him. He got a win too. And Justin Scoggins got upset. I think he's a great fighter, but he keeps getting submitted. He needs to just don the gi and work on that. Maybe move to Brazil for 6 months because I think he's an outstanding fighter, but he just keeps getting submitted. Shout out to Ulka Sasaki. All right, let's talk to Orlando in Connecticut. Oh, one other bit of information. Sorry. Megan Anderson and Chris Cyborg will fight for the UFC featherweight title in Anaheim, California at UFC 214. Jermaine Durandamy has been stripped of her title for refusing to fight Cyborg.
Yeah.
Quick thoughts?
Well, I think the UFC had to do it. Their hands were kind of tied. But I think that also presents an argument for what does Demetrius Johnson do? Because she's kind of getting stripped for something similar, and that's not fighting who they're putting in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what happens there.
But she's not willing to fight the number one contender, according to their statement, and he is, which would be Borg, because Dillashaw's not really a 25 contender. So I know people were asking about Bisping refusing to fight Romero. I don't know that he's officially ever said it. I think they just said that when he was offered GSP, he accepted it.
I'm
so
with
it's
the UFC
going to be different circumstances, not apples to apples. But here's my question. Let's just say Cyborg wins. She's going to be the big favorite. Or Megan wins. Unless it's a classic and they need to immediately run it back, now what?
Yeah.
There's really no featherweights out there, and that's the thing. I was wondering, why didn't they just abolish the division once they just stripped her? And just feature Cyborg in great classic fights against other fighters. She doesn't seem to be as concerned about these belts.
And have a belt
she said
on
it herself. Yeah, maybe, but I just don't think there's a division there to create. I mean, build it and when they will come. I hear you, but after hearing a report the other day of what happened with some of the 25ers, it looked like some of the 25ers that were there, they just, a lot of them didn't belong. Like there was a good, strong half-dozen contingent, and then after that there was a drop-off. And again, we're just doing this to appease an audience. I get it. People want to see women fight, but Jesus, there's got to be some competition to all this. You know what I mean? You don't tune into the – never mind. All right, here we go. Orlando from Connecticut. What's up, Orlando?
From Connecticut. What's going on with the names today?
That's right.
Yeah.
What's up, Orlando? How you doing?
In that movie. You there?
Yeah.
I know who's going to play Stitch. It is that guy, what's his name? Daniel Salazar.
Let me look him
From
up.
Fear the Walking Dead. He's the guy that was running for president for Argentina. He was on last night. Does that ring a bell? He's the singer.
Daniel Salazar. I'll look him up right now.
I'll pull up.
What's his
Jesus
real
Christ,
name,
that guy?
man? I forget his real name. But I have a question for both you guys.
That don't look like Stitch 20 years ago.
What would happen? What would? Yeah, the guy from 20 years ago. What would happen if Conor McGregor threw a Superman punch during the boxing match? And what would also happen if he faked a leg kick? Not actually throw it, but fakes the leg kick. That's my question for you guys. And Stitch, I hope the UFC puts you in the Hall of Fame when the time comes because you deserve it.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. But you know what? The Superman punch would be –
Thanks, Orlando.
Can close the distance.
It's a legal
problem,
it's a legal punch, and so – but, that's a good point, and I'm sure during the negotiations they eliminated anything that has to do with the MMA type of technique. It's one of the things I thought is that McGregor, like I said, those first two rounds when he's in there in close combat, somehow he would end up tweaking Mayweather's arm, elbow, because that's what these guys do.
Or like what Ortiz was trying to do.
Well,
kind of like lock up the arm and an arm bar
and kind of lock it up, So yeah, but that Superman punch I think would be an ideal punch for him.
That you can get away with. Spinning back fist you can't do.
No, of course.
John Jones does that too.
But what's interesting is what he's saying is the fake. Even though you can't do it, Conor McGregor's so out there that if I'm Floyd Mayweather, I might move a little bit if I see him go for that. Might be enough to get in your head. He's not doing anything illegal. He's just moving.
Yeah. No, I think that's
that would be interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, you're right.
Can I ask you something ridiculous?
Sure.
I know that there's these contingencies in the contract, even though they said they're sworn to secrecy and all that. But what if Conor just threw a head kick and knocked out Floyd? Now, obviously, does he probably not collect his whole $100 million, or do you think it's a $50 million purse? He still collects the other 50, and he'd be a gangster for all the people that ever wanted to see Floyd Mayweather knocked out. Would he take that reduction in purse just to do something like that?
Yeah, he'll end up making more money in the long run.
Probably,
but that'd be crazy. That would be insane.
But you got to land it too.
There's got to be some sort of a protection that says he can't do anything. I'm sure he's covered himself with that. As far as the feints, though, possibly, because how can you control someone from, their body reacting in a certain way as long as they don't actually throw the strike, right?
Yeah. Well, like Michael Chandler said, he sets techniques up in advance, and that'd be an advanced technique.
Yeah. No, I think
Interesting.
he'd be good to go. I'm not convinced though about this Daniel Salazar guy. Is this Daniel Salazar?
Yeah.
He almost looks like Tony Soprano a little bit, but the like Hispanic version. He can't play Stitch.
No, especially 20 years ago.
Yeah. Do you know anyone off
Shit,
the top of your head?
He looks older than me now. No, I don't.
All right, let's continue on here. We got who else do we have? Victoria, my VX is down.
Brian in Sacramento.
What's up, Ryan? How you doing?
Oh, nothing much. Just recovering from the weekend, gentlemen. Hey, are we giving out stun guns today?
Sure.
I'd like to stun gun the UFC and whoever's editing Tough. The center of my universe is Sacramento, and I caught up on Tough after the Junkie Gathering, and a couple of things have really stood out to me. Number one, if you have a young, handsome champion, the kind you want to dress up in designer suits, why in God's name would you let the reality show be edited to portray him as a complete and total douche? Arrogant, rude, undisciplined, immature, unimaginative. These are all adjectives that come to mind for me if I'm thinking about Cody Garbrandt, Tough coach. And number two, on the other side, TJ Dillashaw is coming across like a saint. I've never liked him more, not even when he was training out of Sac. But now everything the show's done to get us excited about a Cody No-Love Dillashaw title match is being thrown away because of a back injury. They rebuilt TJ as a perfect bantamweight contender. He avenged the loss against the Sun Tzu. He's provided more than enough sound bites on Tough. He's a former champion and a former training partner of the current champ, but we're going to throw all of that away for a flyweight title fight that doesn't necessarily make sense, even if we've got Ray Borg, Sergio Pettis, and Ben Wen, true flyweights, waiting in the wings for their deserved shot against Mighty Mouse. None of this makes sense to me, and I'd really like to know your thoughts. And I'll have to take that off the air like the 18th. The one with Mr. T, not Rampage.
All right, Ryan. It is pretty interesting that a guy that stood united with Cain Velasquez, GSP, Bjorn Rebney, Tim Kennedy, Donald Cerrone, the MMA, what were they called?
AA.
Yeah. The MMA AA, defiant. They wanted to build an association. Everybody wondered if they'd be ostracized and pushed aside. And next thing you know, he gets the Tough coaching gig, gets the title shot over Cruz, who Cruz had stated he wanted to run it back versus Cody Garbrandt. And he is looking pretty good in the editing. The UFC, I think, has often said, hey, they just turn it over to their partners. I feel like, obviously, they would have a say. But still, what a turnaround for TJ Dillashaw.
We've seen that happen before.
And now he's embracing
seasons,
the snake
right?
thing. It's like you can't even get him with the snake thing. Now he's like digging it, making T-shirts.
Yeah.
He's played his cards right.
He did. But we've seen it in other seasons, right, where you go in and you think Chael Sonnen's going to be the bad guy, and he ended up looking great, right?
Tito Ortiz looked great, too, as a coach the first time.
Shamrock.
Yeah.
So it happens.
Yeah. Cody's a hothead. And a lot of those scenes, you needed to put him in there to promote the season, but it was hard to put them in there and also not, even if you tried your hardest, shut him in a good light because I just felt like he really kind of came off the handle. It's like he really, really wanted to fight this guy no matter what and do anything possible but get kicked off the show. Almost seemed like he was willing to get kicked off the show just to beat up TJ Dillashaw. So those are some serious anger issues. I don't know, man. But all right, before we get to Phoenix from New York, I came up with one goes. Freddie Prinze Jr., Stitch Duran, a young Stitch Duran.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah?
I'd take it.
Look at this picture right here.
Put a mustache on
with
him?
the hat. Yeah, we need a mustache on him.
Okay.
That might work.
That'll work.
Staying with the Latin theme, you know?
Yeah, it'd have to be Latin. Who else would you have?
Yeah, you're right. When's this movie going to come out? Anybody ever approached you about something like that?
No.
Really?
No.
Like, now it doesn't have to be main screen, Warner Brothers or whatever. Touchstone. There's these documentaries that, they do in Cannes and what's the one in Utah?
Sundance.
Netflix, Amazon. They have movies that are put in front of a lot of people's eyes, and they're lucrative. Would you ever want a movie done about your life?
Well, I always look at all options, and as a matter of fact, wasn't going to say anything, but Friday when I land, I'm going to have a vehicle pick me up, and I'm going to go meet with some people that are in that industry. And
in New York?
In New York, yeah. So I don't know what to expect. I'll just see what happens.
From the TV and movie industry?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
But I'm always game. I'm always game for anything. And, outside of just being a cut man, and I'm pretty gutsy.
So what they tell you that you can share? Just we're gonna pick you up and that's it, or?
Yeah, I've been talking to him. As a matter of fact,
Oh.
I met with him here when they came down for the Miss USA pageant, and met with Jeff Cohen.
Hello, Miss New Hampshire.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll see. I mean, it's the type of thing is I don't say a whole lot because nothing happens until it happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but I've heard other people, with different things, and just like when I came out with a book, the guy that did the book for Matt Hughes, and Matt, I hope you get better. Had dinner with his author and had a couple other guys, and nothing ever came through until Zach Robinson came through, and so that's the kind of thing where now I just learn to I'll go listen and have a free dinner, and if it makes sense, then we'll take it from there.
Very cool.
But you'll be the first to know if anything happens.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, Freddie Prinze Jr., I'm in with that.
All right.
Let's go to Houston from Washington.
Phoenix from New York. What's up, Phoenix?
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey,
Oh, Phoenix. There we go. How you doing, girl?
I'm good. Okay, so I also want to throw my 2 cents on who should play Stitch.
Okay.
Did you guys see Rogue One?
Yeah.
I think the Latino dude in Rogue One could totally play you.
Oh,
Wait,
you're
what's the name of the
right.
movie? Road One?
Rogue One. George, you're not gonna like this because it's a
Rogue
Star
One,
Wars movie.
The Star Wars movie.
Oh, okay. Now this guy beats Freddie
Pull him
Prinze
up.
though, Phoenix?
It's pretty good.
Oh, Freddie Prinze is pretty good, and Freddie Prinze knows a little jiu-jitsu, so he's in combat sports,
Yeah.
and he's also the voice of a Star Wars character. So I could put a vote in for Freddie Prinze Jr.
All right.
But so I have a couple things I wanted to ask you guys. The first one is about John Jones and Daniel Cormier.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that John Jones's mom recently passed away, and John's pretty much life and trials and tribulations, some his fault, some not, have been a bit of a roller coaster. And when we're looking at this fight, I mean, I can't remember the name of the guy that actually his mom died right before he fought Mike Tyson, and he knocked Tyson out. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, it was knocked him out. God. Okay. Yeah, I know who it is. Buster Douglas.
something.
No, it's Buster Douglas.
Yeah.
And they fought in Tokyo, Japan.
I didn't know his mom had passed away.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, his mom had passed away like a week before he had fought Mike Tyson, and it actually really made him much more determined to beat Tyson. So I'm wondering, when you look at everything that's going on with John Jones, do you see somebody who's going to be more broken when they step into the octagon this time around, or more determined, from your assessment?
I personally think I think all that would be forgotten. I don't know if it's going to motivate him at all. I think it's going to be a lot more other things that will motivate him. But I think, I don't think it's going to be an issue.
I think those two type of fighters have almost this hate for each other that the second they lock hands or fists, everything goes away, and it's all about how much he can't stand the other guy.
Yeah. Normally, Phoenix, I would say there would probably be some sort of a team huddle. And you know how he's real close to his brothers, and maybe there could be, I guess, a little bit of a uplift, I'm going to do this for my mom. But the one thing I've learned about John is I'm not saying he doesn't have a love for his family, but I think he loves himself more than everyone else. And therefore, I just don't know if there will be any added motivation, You've seen it, by the mistakes he's made. He just kind of cares more about himself than others. But still, this is a sensitive topic because, who is not close to their mom? And you're right. I don't even think we mentioned on the show last week, John Jones did lose his mom. How will this affect his camp? I don't know. But Daniel Cormier Classy also put out a post, a tweet, sending his condolences. And we do the same here at MMA Junkie Radio. Phoenix, is your last name, can I say it? Can I say it out loud? Or is she still there?
Carnivale. Yeah, I'm here.
Were you at a Michael Jackson event, Michael Jackson here at the Mandalay Bay about 6 months ago?
Yes, I was. It was like the best show I've ever seen in my life.
So we're friends on Facebook, and somebody had, I looked at my timeline and said, I'm at the Michael Jackson show, and I said, oh wow, you're 10 steps away from the studio, the MMA Junkie Radio studio.
Yes,
so
I'm
now I
I'm
remember.
a media person too, so
No, great questions.
Oh, thank you.
Great questions, but not a
my
great
last
driver.
Question. Wait, my last question is for Stitch.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
So Stitch, when I used to fight, I would be like my normal cheerful self and everything, and then as soon as my hand wrap got hand wrapped, it was a switch that went off in my head. It was sort of like, okay, now I turned into a warrior. The second my hands were wrapped, it was almost a meditation for me that told me, okay, now take it serious. Now you're about to fight. Do you find that is something very common with fighters, that there's some sort of spiritual preparation, some type of essence that goes into it when you get your hand wrapped?
Oh, of course. I always tell guys, number one,
Phoenix,
I've had guys that are crying when I'm wrapping their hands. And someone like me, psychology is such an important thing. But, I tell these guys, this is like the old gladiator days when you're in the arena. I'm the guy that's putting the armor on you right before you go out into battle. So yeah, that's a transformation right there. And like Frank Mir says, when I see Stitch walking into the dressing room, my stomach just drops because I know it's time to fight. So that is step number one. And if somebody could wrap your hands to the point where you feel very, very confident, Phoenix, then yeah, you get that motivation and you get that confidence, and then you go out there and you perform. I'm thinking a lot better.
Yeah, great questions. Thanks for calling in, Phoenix. We have to move on, though. Let's go to one more call before we go to the break, and it's Jim from Long Beach. What's up, Jim? Hello, Jim. How you doing?
Hello?
Yep.
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on this Reebok deal with the UFC. I just can't stand that, man. I think it just takes away all the money from the fighters. They had their promoters before, and now they're taken away from the I don't know, a lot of things with the UFC I don't like anymore. Dana White, look how he treats his fighters. If they don't do what he says, they fire him. Look what they did to Stitch Duran and all the other people at the UFC. I'm just getting tired of all that stuff. It's just like if you don't kiss Dana White's butt, then you're no good. Look at Demetrius Johnson, what they just did to him. He was the greatest fighter, and now they just want to fight. They want to take everything away from him. What do you think about that?
Well, here's the thing. Obviously, we do know that there's been the fighters have said it themselves, mistreatment of the fighters because they're not. It's like they're making decisions on their end for everyone else. And even though they're independent contractors, we've seen in other sports the relationships flourish when the fighters have a say in it. And that's what they have when they form these associations/unions. So, yeah, obviously I think things could have been handled better. I always say we're in the leather helmet stages of the game. So I give the UFC passes from time to time with the way things are handled because I think they're learning on the fly. It's just at the cost of many people's pockets and their careers and their lives. But, yes, there's been a lot of turnoffs. There's been some things they've done that's turned me off. But here's the bottom line, Jim. Do you still consume their products? By that I mean, do you still get the Fight Pass? Do you still get the pay-per-views? Do you still watch the reality show and all the other things? And most people still say yes. So that's why they're an unstoppable force. That's why they sold for $4.2 billion, because the product itself is very entertaining. So do you still order the pay-per-views? Do you still buy their gear or buy tickets to fights? Like, where do you stand?
Well, I watch the fights and I pay for them, but I'm almost getting to the point where I don't want to anymore because a lot of the fights are not really that good. They're just, it's just getting to be ridiculous, and I'm just like, that Reebok just really pisses me off. They went to that retreat. It's kind of like the management, anti-union, and going. It's all about the UFC, how much money they can put in their pockets and screw the fighters over. So I think what they all need to do is get some guts and just, strike. Don't even fight until that's what they need. They need a union in there. Because when the fighters are done, look what they did to all the fighters. Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, all the great fighters. As soon as they don't agree with the UFC, they're no good anymore. God, what is his name? The great American fighter. What's his name?
Randy Couture?
Yeah, Randy Couture. Now Dana White says he's no good, he's a piece of shit, and all this kind of stuff. Just because he doesn't want to agree with Dana White, and when their careers washed up and they don't have any money, they didn't make all these millions of dollars that they should be making. So the UFC,
it's a long conversation, Jim, that we can have for sure. I appreciate your call, your opinions. I think the UFC's right on many fronts, and I think the fighters are definitely right on many fronts. And Stitch will tell you he was affected by Reebok. The Reebok, I think the Reebok deal could have been great, and it turned out to be one of the worst things possible, for them, because I can't imagine Reebok has liked the type of bad exposure that they've gotten.
No.
I don't know that the kits are flying off the shelves, but a few times a year, Ronda rocks it, Conor rocks it, Jones. So for them, that's been great for them. But I just think it all could have been even greater. I think a lot of people could have benefited by it. So I want to give the right credit to the right outlet. Thanks, Jim, for the call. Somebody said that through 2 years, I think we're 2 out of 6 years in, the money that was allocated from Reebok to the UFC, which was like $60 million for 60 years, they've only gone through 12 of it. It just didn't match up what should have been paid out. Now, can the UFC make an adjustment so that it all goes there? Because they said 100% of it would go towards the fighters, possibly, but that would have cost a lot of other fighters some money, some that have already, their ships have sailed through retirement or being cut or whatever. So, you know, by the easy fix, I say, learn from the other sports. Man United walks out to the field, and it says Chevrolet on their chest, all right? And it says Adidas. So Adidas makes the kit, the uniform, and it says Chevrolet right here. And their jacket, their training gear, it has an insurance company called Aon. So there would have been ways to, if they would have talked to the fighters, the big-name fighters, and said, what can we do? You know, let's talk it all out because we've all built this thing together. How can we make this happen? Perhaps these types of ideas could have been shared so that they could have had Reebok as the sponsor, and then on the back they could have had Chevrolet or Ford or another big sponsor.
Yeah.
Now, instead of 6 years, $60 million, it's 6 years, $120 million. And I bet you now we get to the point where instead of 25% are happy, the ones that didn't really get many sponsorships versus 75 unhappy, it could have maybe been 50-50 or 60-40, and then maybe even one more sponsor, some sort of an adjustment, you know, or some sort of other criteria. And I bet you a lot of people would have been happy. You would have had the fighters extremely, you know, supportive of Reebok. It just could have went a lot better.
I could tell you how it affects us. I mean, there's so many fighters in the UFC, and so many new ones come, and old ones get let go. It's hard to keep up with who they are when they all look the same.
Yeah.
You know, there's really no personality, so you have to remember the guy's name and exactly what he did every single time. Just talking to casual fans, you don't know how many times I've talked to my dad, and, you know, the guy with the icicle trunks, Chuck Liddell. The guy with the fire in his truck, Tito Ortiz. It's easy for them to remember who guys are. Now it's very difficult, and it's difficult for us, and we cover the sport.
How would you have handled it if they came to you and said, what can we do? We know you're losing some other sponsorship opportunities, but how can we work together?
Yeah, you know, I thought that analogy that you just brought out was great. You know, if you have Reebok as the primary sponsor, number one, Reebok is investing in the UFC for one thing and one thing only, that's exposure, right? So you want positive exposure. In fact, it got so bad that the representative for Reebok gave me a call during that time when they let me go. But I think it would have been ideal to use them as a primary piece of advertisement, and then to have your additionals, the Bad Boy and, you know, whatever sponsors, individual sponsors that fighters have, to have them, you know, still keep them on there and get the approval from the UFC of where every piece of logo would go. I think that would be ideal. And same thing with the fighters, you know, and you're right. You know, everybody looks the same, and being the individual sport, it's not the same. We're not all the same.
They wanted a cleaner look. But when Man U comes out of the tunnel, do you ever say to yourself, oh, my God, am I at a NASCAR event?
No.
No, it's just Adidas, Chevrolet, and their number in the back with their name. That's it. It's still clean.
I mean, they have something similar with Monster, but that's not for everyone.
Right. And some of the Brazilians had, I think, a part of a carryover from another contract. It's their energy drink out there. I think it's called TNT or something like that. Yeah. So you could still do it. They managed to get Conor the colors that he wanted early on. He wanted green, I believe, when they weren't offering it. So, again, why not have those conversations earlier? This is something you give the UFC a pass like 5 years into it, but 20 years into it, I mean, hey, it's leather helmet stages for some stuff. Let's learn along the way. But for other stuff, I mean, they need to start being on point if they want to be the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, blah, blah, blah. Jim, we could have gone forever as far as what you said with, you know, treatment of some of the other fighters. You know, one thing I'll tell you is there's two sides to the story. You've heard that before. Somewhere down the middle is the truth. We could have a whole podcast on every single situation, just Tito alone probably, Tito versus the UFC. But thanks for the call and listen in more often. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk to Justin Gaethje, former World Series of Fighting lightweight champion who's making a debut at UFC's Tough 25 finale. One day before UFC 213 here during International Fight Week, he'll be opposed by Michael Johnson again in the main event of that finale. And we'll talk to him when we come back. What if Megan Anderson wins?
Oh, yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Here are those two dummies, George and Goes.
If you haven't heard, Chris Cyborg will be facing Megan Anderson for the vacant the vacant title in the featherweight division, the women's featherweight division in the UFC, at UFC 214, which takes place on July 29th at the Honda Center, and that's headlined by John Jones and Daniel Cormier. Joining us now on the hotline, and we'll get to you callers in just a bit. Well, right now we're joined by former World Series of Fighting lightweight champ, the undefeated Justin Gaethje, who faces Michael Johnson at Tough 25 finale. What's up, Justin? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you guys?
Good. Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. You're on with George and Goes, and we also have Stitch Duran in here in studio with us.
What's up, Justin?
Oh, awesome. What's up, Stitch? How are you?
Following each other together, man. And welcome to Bellator, brother. And I'll see you this week, huh?
No. He's in the UFC now.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Excuse me, brother.
No, you're thinking Michael Chandler, though. Hey, that's a good fight, though. You're going to have your hands full with that one. Hopefully some blood on the mat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got Brett Primus this weekend, and then you got Michael Johnson.
Hey, you're going to be in New York City then, huh?
I will.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
That'll be a lot of fun.
You got Michael Johnson ahead of you, but real quick, did you even entertain an offer from Bellator at the time, or were you able to explore free agency like most free agents do, or did you just sign the first offer out there being the UFC?
No, definitely not. This is America, man. You got to negotiate. So, as soon as I was a free agent, I was a little nervous, but then I got interest from different companies, and I got offers from all the companies.
Yeah, because Chandler used to drop your name a lot. He really wanted you to go to Bellator. He respects you. He thought it would have been a great fight, and I agree, it would have been a great fight.
I give Bellator respect. They wanted me, and they respectfully came in and tried to do it, and we talked a couple times, and I like those guys over there. I got nothing but respect for them.
Mm-hmm. Ultimately, you decided with the UFC. Was the decision based on just money, or were there other factors? Anything you can share as far as like what motivates you to join that organization?
Yeah, hindsight, of course. I knew I was going to get a chance to fight Michael Johnson or someone in the top 5. So top 5, top 6.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as the money matched up, then that's what I wanted to do.
Most undefeated fighters say they're not going to lose. And, of course, in MMA, that's tough. That's tough to keep up because even all the great fighters have losses, some even multiple losses. But one thing you've done is tell everybody that you know it's coming. In fact, it's probably going to be by knockout, and it's like you're at peace with it. But do you think deep down that almost helps you? Like you've already accepted what might come rather than being dealt the tragic blow of a loss one day and then not knowing how to react, like, for example, Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake you can make in this sport is believing in your own hype. Because I'll say it 1,000 times, this has a little bit of luck involved in the fight. And I don't mean landing the punch. I mean not landing the punch. There's a lot of times when I've almost been knocked out or I've almost knocked someone out cold, but they just got lucky and I missed or something. But as soon as you buy into that hype, I've lost in wrestling. I've done my best and lost. I've done not as my best and lost, and I've done my not best and won. I've learned the lessons. I think you're just ignorant to. People, it sells. People buy. People want to hear someone talk about how they're unbeatable, blah 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 blah. But my preparation is everything. I'm never going to go into a fight not prepared, and I'm never going to go in and face somebody that hasn't worked harder or as long as I have. So that brings confidence, and I think it's just self-awareness. I think, like I said, you just can't buy the hype because when you do lose like Ronda Rousey, that's a big hill to climb back up.
How much did you have a say in them promoting you as a former champion from another organization? Like when Pride stars were coming over, I felt like that was talked about a lot more than, for example, Strikeforce fighters coming over or Bellator fighters coming over. It was said, but not as trumped as it could have been. And I feel like coming out of the gate, like for example, if you were to beat Michael Johnson with a highlight reel KO along with being a world champ, that should usher you to the front of the line. But I'm not hearing much about that in their marketing for your fight.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen much marketing at all, so. But I think everything's going to start coming out in the next couple weeks. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. I think the 17-0 with 14 knockouts is all they really need to tell people.
Yeah. Could you have walked out with your belt to the UFC event?
No, I doubt it. No, yeah. I would assume that is a 100% no.
Really? Because like the World Series is now becoming the professional fight league, and I would have done it. I don't know. Like there's something to a shiny belt where you go, who's that guy? What did he do?
I don't even wear my belt up to my fights. Those are just extra belts. When the day I won my belt, it went into my garage and it hasn't moved.
The garage?
That's Justin, though.
Yeah. If it's going to be in your garage, you might as well let us put it right here at the Mandalay Bay, man. We'll house it for you and keep it safe and shiny.
All scratched up. This is the only thing something stays brand new is you put that shit away.
All right. Well, if you reconsider, we have a spot for it here. Goes, what do you have for Justin Gaethje?
All right.
Justin, when we go through all the check marks in this fight, when we go through wrestling, striking, jiu-jitsu, speed, power, are there any that you can concede to Michael Johnson?
No, you would think experience, but like I said, wrestling since I was 4. I wrestled at 3 Division I at the NCAA tournament 3 times. Every round in wrestling in front of 20,000 people. So, no, nothing. I'm so ready for this. I'll ask you guys, what's your prediction? Huh? You think you can take it? You think you can take the ferociousness that I'm going to bring to him?
Hey, we asked the
question. I'm going to
go in
there.
Let me bring this one up. The thing about Michael Johnson that I've always liked about him is he has good boxing skills.
Yeah.
So do you think that's going to be an advantage to him, or are you going to just go out there and do what you normally do, which is being aggressive and throw punches and bunches? And, earlier we had Michael Chandler on, and I asked him, do you set your punches up 2 or 3 steps in advance? Is that something you would do with Michael Johnson?
I mean, you've been cage side for me.
Sure.
I don't think I have no thought process. It's like when Michael says he's going to kill me. I mean, that's what it is for me. It's life or death for me in there. And you have 2 options: you curl into a ball or you fight for your life. So, bell rings. I'm fighting for my life, and like I said, I'm not going to make you answer the question, but can Michael Johnson take what I'm going to bring at him for 15 minutes, for 20 minutes? And I think the answer is no. I mean, I think he can easily get, not lucky. I mean, he's got the skill, he's got the power. He can knock me out in the first couple of rounds. But I think that if it goes past 6 minutes, that Michael's going to, in order to be a great boxer, you have to control space. I don't let nobody control space. I'm not going to let him breathe. I'm not going to give him a break. So that's my game plan. I mean, he I hope he's listening. I mean, if you see me fight, you know I'm coming after you. Everybody that stepped in there has thought they can stop it or thought they can match it, and they haven't been able to. So this is a different level of fighting, so people say. He said he's A-League, I'm C-League. Not the first time someone said that, but it's a fight. He's ignorant for saying that because it takes one punch. So I'm ready, man. I'm so ready. Ready to give 20,000 people the purest shot of adrenaline that they've got in a while.
All right, well, I'm going to answer the question. As far as Johnson and Gaethje, except I'll answer it on Fight Week when our staff picks are released. But I will say this. I have to give him the speed advantage. I know you said you won't give him any check marks, but, man, Michael Johnson's pretty fast. He's got pretty fast hands. You brought up an excellent point, though.
Oh, yeah.
The fights that he's lost, like against Nate Diaz, he was actually doing well early on, and then his conditioning just wasn't as good as Nate Diaz's. And I've seen you go really hard for 15 minutes. You have an incredible chin. You have a lot of power. You have amazing leg kicks. You have the wrestling that you talked about. So I do give you some check marks going into this fight, but I have to give him the speed.
And I don't give nobody space.
Yeah, for sure.
No space.
Yeah, I mean, and you another thing is I think you're still in that stage where usually when fighters mature, they're a little bit more tactical and surgical. And the reason you're so scary is because, like you just said, you're thinking on the fly, so you're still a dangerous human being. And I don't know if it's experience. I don't know if it's a number of fights. I don't know if it's having a kid or fighting for a contract. All fighters hit this point where all of a sudden they just lose a little bit of that edge. But they've gained a ton of experience and they become more cerebral.
Speed.
Excuse me? Or speed, yeah, or speed. Reaction time, who knows?
No,
but
I said, yeah, we'll see. I mean,
we'll see. Okay.
I don't know I'm going to take it. I assume that I'll take it nice and as long as my preparation is there and my effort is there, then I'll be content with it. I know that.
Yeah. All right, Goes, what do you have for Justin Gaethje?
Well, the one thing that I can probably promise just about anyone when Justin Gaethje fights is, A, you're going to get a scrap, but B, you're going to look out in the crowd, and there's always going to be this almost mafia of people that are just screaming and standing on their toes the whole fight. Justin, are you going to have a large contingent at this fight?
Yeah, I believe so. This is just crazy. I've been going to Vegas to wrestle since I was probably 6 years old. I've been to Vegas to compete. I've only fought there once, but I've been there to compete probably 12 times throughout my life. So this is just like a culmination of everything coming together. And like I said, I don't care about winning or losing, but my effort will be there, and humans recognize effort, and everybody in the building is going to appreciate the effort that I give them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've worked many of Justin's fights, and I've met all his family, and he has an entourage, man.
A lot of them, huh?
Yeah. So I expect him to do the same thing. It's like the old farm worker days when we used to go to work in the buses. That's the way these guys are going to be, man. Namba raza.
There you go.
Oh yeah, hey, bunch of. I'm telling you, small town. I mean, small town pride is something different, and I got it behind me.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's an 8-hour drive from where I'm from. So I mean, there's going to be probably 10 to 12,000 people in there, so I'm sure it's going to be a little harder to pick out my fans. But like I said, hopefully by the end, everybody will be screaming Gaethje.
Hey, Justin,
the Gaethje chant.
You know what you need to do is, I don't know if you caught Jason Knight versus my man here from Texas. What was his name?
Chaz. No, wait.
Not Chaz Kelly. Was it Chaz Kelly?
No.
Well, anyway, Jason Knight, the guy they call Hick Diaz. One thing that made his entourage stand out is they all had colorful T-shirts. I don't know if it's too late in the game. You still have a few weeks left. But, man, do something like that, dude. I think that needs to come in mixed martial arts, is that feeling of, I don't want to call it hooliganism or nothing like that, but a strong support group. Like Kevin Gastelum had a group for the Tough Finale against Uriah Hall. It was loud, and they were all wearing black shirts, and they stood out. And you're one of those fighters that has a large contingent. So if you can do a T-shirt and have everyone match, I'm telling you, others watch, and they want to be a part of it. They want to be a part of the bandwagon and become your fan, because it's like an attraction, you know. So you got the group to do it. Hopefully you'll consider something like that.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I've only got here. I've gotten where I'm at by never looking past the next fight, and I've always thought that my opponent's better than me. So, the business structure comes like you have to see yourself being successful, and and then you make a plan. But it's hard for me because I don't want to put myself there yet. But I do need to be set up and ready in case I am successful. You are correct.
There you have it. All right, folks. This is Justin Gaethje, 17-0. Overall, 14 KOs, former champion at the World Series of Fighting. Had many multiple title defenses there, and the UFC just acquired themselves a fucking gem. This guy is a great and exciting fighter, and he's facing another great and exciting fighter in Michael Johnson, and that's on July 7th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. It's going to be a great fight. Justin, thanks for the time. It's great to catch up with you, and good luck with the rest of your camp. Safe travels to Vegas. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
All right, take
See you
care.
there.
See ya. All right,
Later,
folks.
Stitch. Have fun in New York.
All right, my man. Thanks.
All right, we're going to take a
Later.
quick break here, and when we come back, we'll take some calls and clean up shop. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93.
Was Chase.
or the Wright brothers of mixed martial arts. They are Gorgeous George and Goes, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Tomorrow we'll be joined by John Fitch, Steven Morocco, Felice Herrick. Join us at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific for another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. We'll finish up with some calls. Scott from Utah. What's up, Scott?
Hey, what's up, boys?
What's up?
Hey, you guys see the Holly Holm knockout kick this weekend?
Yeah, it was something else.
Sweet. My question is, are all of her fights from here on out going to look the same, where she's a counter puncher? So all these fighters are coming in like Betch Correa, who's not a counter puncher. She's a bull, but then she waits like that and just waits, and you get like 2 rounds of just nothing until the eventual knockout. But good God, man! I mean, it was hard watching her fight until the knockout.
I think she fought that way because her back was against the wall. I don't think she'll really go back to that in her next fight.
Yeah, well, like Holly and Valentina's a counterpuncher as well, and I believe Holly was leading the dance. The only problem is she didn't diversify her attack, and Valentina had a beat on it. But, I think when she needs to, she does step on the gas. I don't remember Holly fight being like that. Like, as painful to watch as those first 10 minutes were.
Raquel was a little
similar. A little bit, yeah. But, Raquel's got some great boxing. So, I guess from time to time it's going to happen. I compare it to, these fighters that get into 15, 20 fights. I compare it to an NFL season. Even the Patriots lose a few times during the season, or even if they win, it's a boring game, but it's a win. So it's just going to happen. You're not going to have a 16-0 season or a 19-0 if you include the playoffs and the Super Bowl. 52-7, 7 TDs. It's just not going to work out that way. Some of the wins are ugly. They're road wins or whatever, and as long as you have your hand raised, it's a good thing. But, Scott, we got to move on. I want to get everybody a chance here. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for holding. Let's go to Marco and Waco. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
Marco from Waco, ¿qué pasa, Vatos and Vatos Stitch?
¿Qué pasó, mi Marco?
Hey, when they do your movie, I can do the voiceover on the Spanish version. It'll go something like this. Defiéndete, con las manos arriba, métele un chingazo.
Pretty good.
Well, your name has already been thrown in the mix by George.
Hey, super side of Megan Anderson and outside what is happening. But within Conor and Mayweather, I want to talk about, they got this mega purse, that is splitting, like they project $500 million, $100 million for Conor, $100 million plus for Mayweather. Now, I am thinking, this is just me, on a scaled-down version, the UFC fighters should wise up and say, okay, we're bringing anything from 30 to 60 million a pay-per-view for the UFC. At least 25 million of those freaking 30 to 60 million belong to us, like a 40-45%. Because if they can do it for Conor and Mayweather, they can definitely do it for the freaking fighters in the UFC. We need to see those freaking purses rise up. With that, I'll leave you guys. Catch you guys tomorrow.
Thank you, Marco. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. One more. Oreo from Alberta, you got about 30 seconds. Goes, you're going to have about 15. What's up, Oreo?
Hey, quickly about the Cyborg fight. Do you think it really makes sense? I mean, Megan Anderson or Lenzar.
I just would have been done with the division for a few years, but I still would have featured Cyborg as many fights as I could versus women that were willing to take the catch weight or meet her at 45. I just don't think there's a division there, and it's evidenced by the fact that we couldn't even come up with a substitute for if one of these two were to fall out. I mean, we'd really be reaching. Thanks for the call, Oreo. Sorry, we got to move on. Goes
today in MMA history, Lorenzo Fertitta steps down as president of the Stations Casino to focus on global expansion of the UFC. Crazy, huh?
Amazing. Yeah, good stuff. At MMA History today, give him a shout-out on Twitter. Stitch, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Safe travels to New York, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you, Victorian Goes. I'm George. We're out of here. Be champions.
The nighttime turning night into daytime. If you see it once, you'll never be the same again.
All right. Cool, guys.
Thank you so much.
Got it in, Goes.
I did. Thank you.
Good job.
We'll see you in a week.
All right. No, I'm away next week. I'm going to Maryland.
Hey, Victoria, I'll be in town
Yes.
Friday. Bears are on me.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I wish. I would have loved that. I totally would have. I am going to Maryland.
Oh, good, because I'm not a big drinker.
Me either.
All right,
this Friday you're going to
Pizza.
Maryland?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm actually leaving Wednesday.
Oh.
Come back Monday.
What happens there?
Yeah. They have like beach, like ocean bars.
Oh, okay. So it's like a vacation?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
A little small one.
All right. Well, have fun, and
Staycation,
we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yep, sounds good, guys.
All right, take care.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye.